Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, we're doing this on Zoom. It's Krystle back at again with another video, and today I have a super special guest. This is Jenny Nadaner, who was actually my teacher back in high school at the Stanford University Online High School. And today we are going to be answering your questions and debunking myths about online learning, since we've been seeing so many videos online about people giving tips for online learning, but a lot of these people have never really done it before in their lives. But, Jenny has been involved in online learning for 16 years. I was online schooled, as you guys know, if you've seen my videos on the subject, all the way back from kindergarten, now through Columbia, where I'm still attending online. And due to COVID-19, so many other people are in the same boat. So I wanted to make this video to share with you our 30 years of combined expertise on the subject.
Wonderful. It's so lovely to be here today with Krystle, and Krystle was an outstanding student. I was fortunate to have her for 5 years, and I am so lucky to be in her presence today and assisting with all of you on how to be successful and tips for really rocking out, your online learning experience. Again, my name is Jenny Nadaner, and I'm currently teaching in a brick and mortar high school in Portland, Oregon, but I have, as Krystle said, many years experience both at higher education at the university level with distance learning and hybrid education, and then most recently synchronously at the Stanford Online High School. So I'm happy to give my perspective from the teacher angle on how to be successful at online learning.
Yeah, so we're going to be formatting this video going through all the different myths that have sprung up about online learning, especially now since unfortunately a lot of people have had it kind of foisted upon them. A lot of people didn't choose this. We were very lucky to have been able to really choose to do this method of learning, and we've seen how it can be absolutely amazing. And hopefully today we can help you guys see that too. And we're actually going to be running an online learning workshop on how to own your online learning experience, which is happening early next week on Monday and Wednesday. I will put the times in the description box below. You guys should definitely sign up. It's 100% free. And then we're also working together on a lot of other aspects of online learning, designing online courses. We have so many cool projects in the works, you guys. I'm going to put all the links down below, but you should definitely check them out. And other than that, we can just dive right in and get right into the first myth that we're going to be debunking today, which is you can't connect with other students and teachers online. So first of all, I'll give my perspective on this as a student. Like I said, I went through online learning all the way from kindergarten when I was like 5, 6 years old, all the way up until now. And oh my gosh, some of the best friendships I've ever had have been online. And obviously, Jenny and I are here today. We pretty much our entire relationship was online, but we were able to really connect as a student and teacher, and now as colleagues, which I just think is absolutely amazing. So some of the ways that we did that, and that the school environments online that I personally experienced did that, were by really making use of some of the abilities of these cool technologies like Zoom. I've used some other online platforms that are similar to Zoom too, like Adobe Connect, Saba, Centra, which is like super outdated. Guys probably won't be doing that one, but it's been a lot over the years. And what I've seen a lot of people not doing today is taking so much advantage of things like the text chat. Now, when I was doing the Stanford University Online High School or other kinds of online learning before that, whenever there were live classes like what you guys will probably be having, we would always come in as the students beforehand, 10 minutes early. We'd talk a little bit in the text chat, ask people how their days were going. The etiquette is a little different now. People are more easily able to just kind of pop on screen, on camera and mic and talk, but I definitely encourage you guys to, if your teachers allow you into the room, and hopefully that's something your teachers will do, just be able to, talk a little bit and keep that connection going. Another thing we always did was have these dedicated online learning platforms that were also not just purely educational, but also for fun. We would have communities on Skype. Now that's mostly shifting to places like Discord as the technology starts to evolve, but you should always be making group chats for classes. That's a great way to really make sure that you connect with people, can ask questions, and you get to know your classmates. I mean, when you've never met your classmates in person, it might seem really jarring for a lot of people, but it's so natural for me at this point, honestly. And making a group chat is a perfect way to really make sure that you can get those connections. That's my biggest advice right there, because, if you don't have that connection from walking physically into the classroom, saying hi to everyone, you're going to need to make friends in another way. You're going to need someone to ask about the homework or to proofread your essay or something like that. So don't be shy about that. And then, Jenny, is there anything you want to add from the teacher perspective?
Yeah, those are all excellent points, Krystle. And I'm just reminiscing of our chats and our time from Stanford Online High School. But yes, from the teacher perspective, it's about building community. So, one of my tasks is how can I make myself personable, but how can I make the environment an environment that students want to be in, as opposed to making it feel very foreign because I'm far off in the ether and everyone else is in their own little pods or bubbles. No, we all see each other on camera. And I can say that from my experience, I actually found that I got to know students online. I'm not going to say necessarily better, but almost better than I have in person, because you're focusing on that individual who is speaking on camera. You feel like they're in the room with you. I always felt like I was having a one-on-one conversation with the student sharing their perspective in a Spanish seminar, let's say, even if there were 15 other students and you see their names on the list or you see their faces, but the one who's speaking you can often highlight and you can make them even more present. And then, like Krystle said, I really encourage finding different avenues for communication. Anything that is easy for you and that works obviously with the instructor. But from my end, at Stanford Online High School at least, we use Skype, which now I might use Slack, or as Krystle said, maybe Discord. But I had a Círculo de Mate. It was a Spanish conversation club, and we all communicated through Skype. I had a Skype group for all different levels of Spanish. And because I was on the computer so often, if a student asked a question about a clarification for the homework, if I saw it first, I would pop in and say something. If another student saw it, they would pop in and say something. And it really feels relaxing and lowers the anxiety, or what's called the affective filter, where you don't feel like it's so scary to ask your teacher a question, right? You're engaging in something that you would do with a peer, with your friend. Obviously, you want to have the proper etiquette when you're talking to a teacher, per se, and be careful with some of the comments. Maybe have that private chat, but having a class chat where you are co-constructing this collaboration that is this lovely dance between the student and the teacher, right? Where I'm learning from the students with the questions they ask, and I can see those in real time. And it really helps the experience we have in the synchronous classroom, because I can see, oh wow, there were 10 students in Skype last night that had all of these questions. Maybe I need to scale it back and figure out what to do in class. Or maybe there was something funny that came up and I can bring that in. Or a student had a really awesome idea. And lastly, I will say about text chat in class. I've actually done some research on this, and it can be scary for a lot of people. But basically, it's a great way to interject ideas, or if you're more introverted, to give your input to what a discussion is on. At least I do as the instructor. I see the chat happening. I might pause. I'll answer, address what I see. And it's a really great way for the flow of a class to just go naturally without having to awkwardly say, are there any questions? And if no one wants to interrupt the teacher, right, you see the questions there, and it really feels more of a two-way street, right, as opposed to just the teacher coming at you with information and you sitting back. So I encourage you to build community in any way you can, whether, again, Discord, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Skype, outside of class, and utilizing that text chat in class. Teachers are a lot nicer than you think. Now, they want to get to know you just as much as you, I think, hope to get to know them in a relaxed way.
Yeah, and I think you totally made that sort of community feel and vibe so apparent when I was in your classes, for sure. And just to quickly piggyback off some of the things that you added, I think that, it just comes down to communication in online classrooms can be a little bit more written, a little bit more literary than you're used to, because you'll be doing a lot of text chat, you'll be doing a lot of group chats and that sort of thing. And it's just a slightly different way, but it also has a lot of benefits. I've seen students who maybe have anxiety and are able to feel so much more comfortable participating using text chat, so you can actually raise your participation score. And then also, if a student has a health problem or something like that and can't come on camera for some reason or mic, they can use the text chat. It's such a blessing. I've seen that happen before. And then just really quickly, everybody, don't forget, professors can see the private chat at the end of the recording a lot of time. Depending on what software you're using, they can usually see that. So like, I've seen people like flirt in the private chat or tell each other that they're watching a movie or something instead of paying attention to class. Don't do that. And second of all, don't talk about it in the private chat. Keep it school appropriate, you guys, but definitely take advantage of those avenues. And then finally, one more thing I just wanted to add is something I did a lot back in high school, or my friends did a lot, was we would call sometimes and do homework together over FaceTime or Skype or something like that. So it's really important to keep your friends in the loop at this time. And it's a good way to make friends too, if you're like, hey, let's organize a study session or something like that. Ready to move on to myth number 2?
Definitely.
Perfect. So I'd say that this one boils down to you can't stay focused during your classes at home. And I have seen so many people be really worried about this. And especially I think that happened when a lot of people had to suddenly move online back in the end of the spring semester. And I saw a lot of people having issues with paying attention. And I think a lot of that came down to people just weren't prepared. No one knew what they were going to be up against. But never fear, we're here to share our tips with you. So, first of all, if you find yourself maybe going on the internet a lot during class, I think inherently this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can help you in some ways, like if you're looking up a term or something like that, or if you're maybe researching a little bit about what the class topic is because you want to give more depth in your answer. I found that can be really helpful. It actually can be really nice to have the entire world at your fingertips when you want to check yourself, fact check yourself, or potentially see if there's another side or opinion that you could get more into. And then what's also nice is you can queue up things like the class readings online. You don't have to print everything out. You can have a lot of resources right there. For instance, back in the Spanish classes that I did with Jenny, it was really nice to have the online Spanish-English dictionary if I needed to look up a word or something like that. That was always helpful. But if you find yourself doing something like, Googling things that are totally unrelated to class, or like I said before, watching a whole freaking movie during class, then there are different kinds of softwares out there that can potentially, if need be, block different sites. You can turn off access for yourself. If it comes down to that, that can be very helpful for a certain period of time, like the period of time of a class. That can be really useful, and you can self-monitor and make sure that your productivity levels are up and you're engaged during class by eliminating these kinds of distractions. But then, of course, even if you get rid of all the different websites that might be kind of enticing, maybe it's still hard to pay attention during class. So a few of the things that I did were take handwritten notes instead of online notes, like in Google Docs or Microsoft Word or something like that. So I would always try and keep some part of my body active. I actually used like a standing desk all throughout high school for the most part, just to have some sort of activity. I would stand on like this balance board during class at my standing desk and just try and have some sort of motion going on. Doodling is actually scientifically proven, psychologically speaking, I think, to help people concentrate in certain situations. So big proponent of doodling, but get yourself moving. Like if you have an exercise ball or something, maybe sit on that instead of a chair. And then other things that I did in addition to just taking those handwritten notes was making sure that I knew what the reason that I was in this class was. Just always making sure that I knew why I thought the material was interesting. I mean, this is also something that I did at Columbia, but to a really large extent when I was online, I would always look up other articles related to the material or really find a way that I could tell that I was interested in it and related to my own passions and fascinations. And Jenny, this is something we always did in class, which I appreciated that you did because you really fostered that a lot. But no matter what class I was in, I tried to figure out how it related to my interests. I gave myself a reason to love that class. So maybe you're in a class that's like Common Core or just a prerequisite or something, and you're like, oh my God, I hate this. I'm never going to use it in my life. Well, if there's some way that you can connect it to your life, like let's say it's a math class and you want to be like something that has nothing to do with math, a painter. There's a lot of artists who use mathematical ratios in their painting or in poetry. And so it's really useful to just know these things regardless of what you're going into. And if you can research outside of class, find cool articles, then they can even be awesome discussion topics for your teacher, where if you're the one bringing up these questions or potential topics, of course, you're going to have some personal investment in them and they'll get a lot more interesting.
Yeah, definitely, Krystle. Thank you. Awesome points. I will start with what you said at the end, just about connecting what you're learning about in the course to your own passion. And that's something that I am a deep believer in and really strive for in all of the classes. Is you might be taking a class for a requirement for graduation. Maybe it's a gen ed. Maybe, as Krystle said, it's just a prerequisite for something else, but how is that going to serve you in whatever you want to do later? So in my case, in teaching all different levels of Spanish, from beginning students who don't know anything to graduate level courses on sociolinguistics, Hispanic linguistics, literature, film, is okay, so maybe language is not your thing. And this happened so many times. I can recall a student in Spanish 2 who was a heritage speaker of Spanish, and he really, really, really did not like anything that involved writing, words, language. No, he heard Spanish spoken at home, but didn't learn the grammar explicitly in a formal way. And so one day we just met and I said, what are you interested in? And he was passionate about robotics. And he had cousins in Mexico City. And so I said, okay, let's do robotics in Spanish. You can do anything. The cool thing about a language is you can do anything with the language. And so we started learning some vocabulary about robotics. And I helped him look at different resources online regarding robotics. The same thing happened this year with a student who ended up plagiarizing using translation devices during class because he was not a fan of online learning and would stare out his window, would do something else, would watch a movie, was really distracted. For the first, I would say, 6 weeks of the transition from face-to-face in person to 100% online, synchronous, asynchronous. And after a couple bouts of plagiarism, I gave him a chance because I said, I know this is really hard for you. Tell me, what do you do for fun in your free time? And he said, build computers and try to write code for video games. Awesome. Let's change the project you're going to do for your final project. You're going to write a manual to build a computer, but you're going to do it in Spanish. All of the grammar we're learning, you're going to apply to that. You're going to use commands, etc. And it was beautiful. Yes, he made a lot of mistakes, but he learned a lot and he was engaged in class. So I think connecting myth 1 to myth 2 with finding that connection with your instructor and with other students in the class. If everyone is not interested in the curriculum, let's say, the teacher should know, and maybe that chat can help let the instructor know that this topic is really not working for the class. In my case, I would be happy to change the topic. Maybe not so easy in an advanced calculus class where you have to do certain type of curriculum. But I can say in terms of being connected and not being distracted, it's inevitable that you're going to look at another site, you're going to have multiple tabs open. From the instructor standpoint, all I can do is say that you're going to get a lot more out of the experience. Any work you do is going to be a lot easier the more you're engaged in that live synchronous class. You're going to find that the class answered a lot of questions you might have. It might alleviate doubts. It might make sense out of what is on your learning management system, the LMS, where materials are posted, where you're like, why are there 100 links here? And in class, you talked about that these are here for your resource, for your information. Look at them if you want. Don't if you want, right? But you don't have to click on every one of them and be overwhelmed. So there's a lot of pros there. Again, there are certain times when it's helpful. Word reference, the dictionary, online, anything that you think could add to solidifying or furthering an understanding that is helpful to make it through that particular class or to ask a question. So try to stay as focused as you can. It won't last forever. You'll have your time, hopefully, to watch your movie and to chat with your friends in a non-academic setting. So do your best and let your instructor know if you're not connecting. And I'm sure that person will help. I know I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that all the teachers that you guys are dealing with have that same approach. I think a lot of people are going to. People are having to be flexible. And like Jenny says, your teachers are so nice. That's been my experience both all throughout high school, back in middle school, and now in college. Absolutely. You just have to approach people. You might also start seeing things like office hours pop up. That was a big thing that we had in the Stanford University Online High School. And it may be that you at your school will start seeing that your teachers are holding online office hours through Zoom or something like that. Go to them if they have them, if they're adding these things. Yes, that's my reaction too. Go to them. They're amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, all my best learning has been done in office hours, even in college nowadays. And I always find that I'm like the only person who's at an office hours or going to a peer tutor meeting or something like that. So if your school is starting to introduce new kinds of options like that, please take advantage of them. Those are really good for both myths 1 and 2 with connecting with your professor, and then also figuring out a way, like we talked about with myth number 2, to make sure that you can see how this course is actually relevant and interesting if you don't have that automatic connection with it. And then I think that also gets into myth number 3, which is that, well, essentially, the internet isn't good for doing classes. Your Wi-Fi goes out. You don't have that ability to connect with people. You don't know what you're doing. It's the first time that you're using Zoom or some other kind of online learning platform. And definitely, I've seen a lot of people get bombarded with like a ton of different links. Like Jenny was saying, you're learning how to use something like Canvas for the first time, maybe if you're using that, or Courseworks, and you're just not used to all of this, and that's totally understandable. But I promise, absolutely, it all makes sense eventually. And my tips on this end, so this is basically coming from, I had someone ask me a question saying that they were curious to hear about how I dealt with Wi-Fi issues if I had any. Their professor and advisor, they all seem to be at a loss. That's what this person said. And then I've got a lot of people just asking me in general, how do you get used to this? Now, certainly I had the great privilege of starting live online classes when I want to say I was around 8 or 9, and obviously that was over a decade ago. So it's been quite a while, and when you're young, you're able to really absorb things. But that doesn't mean that you guys can't not only get used to this, but really start to enjoy it and see it as a really viable way of learning. I mean, philosophically speaking, the internet is really changing the way we archive things. It has so much academic resonance, scholarly attributes, and just it is so important in the way that we now interact with one another and the world. So if you guys are used to things like Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and like I'm used to those things now too. I didn't grow up with them, but a lot of you guys are younger than I am. You grow up even more on the internet than I did personally. I know you can do this. I believe in you all. So first of all, with Wi-Fi issues, have the numbers for tech support for whatever you're using, whether it's Zoom or something else, saved, bookmarked, have them in your phone contacts list, just in case you have some sort of issue logging in. And oh my gosh, I remember, there's always going to be a time when there's some kind of issue. It's like unavoidable, just because there's going to be glitches. It's the internet. Things happen. So have the tech support numbers saved. And then also, I would just make sure to have a plan before you even really get into the semester. So we're filming this on August 11th. Maybe a couple people have started going back to school, but for the most part, most people are going to be going back like next week and the week after that. So it's still early, essentially, is what I'm saying. And so if you're going to be online this semester, really go to the website of what you're using, whether it's Zoom, Adobe Connect, something else. If you're having live synchronous classes, even if you're having asynchronous classes, go to the website, familiarize yourself with their contact support page. They oftentimes have tutorials that you can look at and questions that people have submitted before that they've already answered. So just get a sense of where that information is before you even need it, just in case something happens and maybe you can't log in or something like that. when it comes to Wi-Fi issues, I had a lot of Wi-Fi issues my senior year. For some reason, my computer was having trouble connecting to classes. Jenny, you probably remember this. It was like stopping all the time. It was so rough. So I always had my phone next to me the entire time in case I needed to switch to my hotspot. Now, please don't take this as an excuse to just like play, I don't know, mobile games all day during class, but have your phone there because you might need it. Once again, there's software if you need to put it on your own phone and block yourself from using games or going to certain websites for a certain period of time. You can absolutely do that. But it's super important just to have it on hand. And then furthermore, it also just, I want to get into this idea of not having this familiarity with the online format. And a big suggestion that I have for you guys is try an online course of your own choosing as soon as you can. Something that's totally like low barrier to entry and low stakes, something like a Coursera course or an edX course, something that you can potentially do for free. You're not doing it for a grade or a certificate or anything. It's really just pick a topic that you like. If you're not familiar with what Coursera is, that's where a lot of universities offer free classes. You can pay for a certificate, don't have to. In this case, I just want you guys to kind of consider, you might just try something like that out just to get familiar with the online format. You should come to our online workshop that we're doing. We will show you all the ropes, but familiarize yourself with it, with just the online format. It's not going to be exactly the same, most likely as whatever your school is going to be doing, but it'll give you a little bit of a sense in a totally like zero stakes environment. It does not matter if you totally screw everything up, if you don't submit any coursework, it's fine. Just let yourself have this opportunity to get to know the ropes, and I would, make it something interesting that you want to learn about so you have that connection from the get-go.
Excellent advice, Krystle. Thank you so much for that. And I'll just piggyback to that by saying from the teacher perspective, at least for my teaching and what I would recommend to all of those teachers that I may assist in trainings is always have a contingency plan. And I think nowadays more teachers are preparing that. So in my case, for example, anything I would do in class, you want to have at least the skeleton version of that on the language management system. So that might be Canvas, it might be Blackboard, it might be Schoology, it might be whatever your school is using, and go there to find resources if you think you missed something in class. I would say before even emailing the instructor, but if you see that you have a recurring problem or you're working on revamping your internet connection, or maybe it's a situation that it's not going to get fixed for a while, communicate that directly to your instructor. Let them know that you're there, but you may cut in and out because you have a Wi-Fi issue. I think now more than ever, people are really sensitive also to equity issues of we can't physically be at the university where I know I would have great Wi-Fi. I'm in this remote location where I live, and I wasn't planning on being here for school, but I am now, right? So there's a lot of things that everyone is working with. You're not alone. Now, and sometimes the company goes out, sometimes there's a hurricane, there's a storm, life happens, and it's not the end of the world. Like Krystle said, having some sort of backup device is great if you can have it. If you don't have a backup device, then just as clear communication as you can. Don't worry that you're going to be reprimanded for getting kicked out of a class, let's say, or losing the connection. It happens, no? So don't sweat the small stuff, but yes, be vigilant about your communication. The clearer the communicator you are with this, the better. And I also just wanted to add about the learning management system, look for that content. Familiarize yourself with where the asynchronous materials are. Oftentimes I've noticed students won't look at everything that's put there. And there's a lot of information there. Teachers I know, and myself included, spend a lot of time building those sites so you have more than you need. No, in case you want that extra challenge, or in case you missed a lesson. No, don't be shy asking for maybe slides your instructor has that they didn't put on the learning management system, let's say. And like Krystle said, familiarize yourself with something that's fun, that's low stakes, that'll get you maybe participating, get you feeling more comfortable with being on camera. Those are all great suggestions. And I think you'll find your experience will seem more like face-to-face than not, even if it takes a bit of getting used to at the beginning. So we're all in this together. We can say worldwide now for the first time, you're not alone. So don't ever think that you're the only one with any of these issues. No, we're constantly learning and trying to improve.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind, just that you're not alone. And also, what you were saying just now made me think of another point that I think actually goes all the way back to like myth number one, myth number two, which is just keep your instructor in the loop about things that are happening in your life that are interesting and exciting, as well as miserable, like the Wi-Fi going out or a storm or something like that. Like I remember actually, back when I was in 10th grade, I was in your class, Jenny, and my sister and I, we got this cool opportunity to go to the UN. We were at the Permanent Forum for the Rights of Indigenous People, and we had this really interesting opportunity to interview people who were there as delegates, and we interviewed them in both English and Spanish, depending on where they were from. So there were some delegates who were from indigenous populations in Mexico, and so we were able to transcend the language barrier and record interviews, and we reached out to you about that, I remember, and just let you know what was going on, just so you could know what was going on in our lives and how we were using the content from your class in our actual lives. So that's just another way to keep your instructors in the loop, create that teacher-student connection in a way that maybe you wouldn't necessarily need to do if you were in person. You can maybe tell them in person. But yeah, I would say definitely keep up a good email thing going. I mean, I still email with some of my teachers from back in the Stanford Online High School. We created those connections because we really put the work in. We met in office hours outside of class, and we were able to craft those relationships that are just as strong as the ones that I've had with my in-person teachers at Columbia so far. So just moving on to our final myth, which is you can't pursue your passions and projects online, which is something that we've seen a lot of people worried about because a lot of people are having their extracurricular activities shut down. As you guys know, I do a lot of one-on-one consulting in the academic sense and things like tutoring and helping you guys with preparing for college apps, finding different competitions and contests and summer programs, and so many of those shut down. And so it was really sad to see a lot of people who I had helped prepare for these different kinds of experiences, and then they either shut down or went online, but in a very limited capacity where it was very different from what the original experience was going to be like. But what I think is so important is to just remember not everything is lost right now. Maybe you can't necessarily go and play a team sport, for instance. But, first of all, you can still practice those things in your home. You can really take this time to refine your skills, hone your craft. I've been attending a lot of different workshops and seminars where college admissions officers are speaking, and this is the advice they're giving. They want everyone to take this time and get really good at what you love, whether that's a sport that you can practice or an art or something, an academic research topic. You can read everything possible about it right now when you potentially have more time if an extracurricular activity isn't happening. But also at the same time, what we're actually working on is ways of figuring out how we can reintroduce extracurricular activities back into your lives in a different format. This pandemic is forcing everyone to think really outside of the box in creative ways, which is why Jenny and I are working on different kinds of online courses. You guys can see them up on our website in the link down below in the description box, and I'll also put it up in the top right-hand corner of this video, sliding along so you can see. But what's happening is we're working on creating online courses for students that aren't just courses, but also have components where you're creating a project. So some of you guys who are watching this video are actually probably enrolled in my creative writing circle that I was running this summer, and that was an amazing experience. And a big focus of that was just helping a lot of you guys with getting some sort of publishable short story or some piece of writing that you could submit to competitions or even try and publish in literary journals or magazines or use for your portfolios for next year when you're applying to creative writing summer programs. And we just expanded this idea, and we're working on putting up a bunch of different courses on our website where you learn, whether it's creative writing, which I'm teaching, or Jenny will be teaching really cool classes on all sorts of different subjects. And then we're also working with other teachers who have their master's degrees, who graduated from amazing colleges, who are so passionate about what they do and have experience in online teaching and tutoring, and they're all having some sort of integrated component where you create this concrete project. It's like an extracurricular in a class in one. So that's our contribution. That's what we're trying to do to help reintroduce extracurricular activities into your lives, whether it's writing a short story that you can submit to a competition, or creating a podcast, or even a YouTube channel like this one or something like that, or writing a research paper, so that you don't have to feel like all your activities, all the things that you were doing for yourself, things that hold a lot of weight for future college admissions, they don't have to be permanently gone or anything like that. And we're actively trying to help you guys. So you should definitely go check that out. And if any of the classes there look interesting to you, feel free to sign up or email me, get in touch with us, and we'd love to see how we can help you out. Some elements of society might look different. And so we all have to figure out how to exist in this brave new world, to make a literary allusion, and to really figure out how to make the best of it. And hopefully we can all do that together as the My Ivy Education family.
Definitely. I will echo everything Krystle said and just add to that by saying we are definitely in a shifting educational paradigm right now, where I personally don't think we're going to go back to ever being the same, because our conscious is shifting. And so thinking about making those connections to things you're passionate about, what can you do with your learning beyond the confines of the classroom? From my end, that is something that is integral in my teaching. And I always ask students, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do? Everything, as Krystle said, is at our fingertips. It's just a matter of how we are applying it. How do you want to apply your knowledge? Where do you want to apply it? And learning is for life. No, it's not just now. It's not just today via Zoom. No, so how are you going to use this later? And I think there's a lot of awesome takeaways. And there's a lot I know I can do online that is more cumbersome in person. And a lot of things that we can co-create together. And I'm learning from students just as much as I hope students are learning from me. So I encourage you to come to the workshop next week. We'll have more information up in a moment. But thank you so much, Krystle, for taking the time to invite me to this platform.
Thank you so much for joining with us and doing this. And yes, everybody should definitely come to the workshop. I think bottom line, you're going to have to be more independent and take responsibility with online learning, but we are here to help walk you through it. You're not alone. There are people like us who have been on the student and teacher side of online learning for a combination of 30 years with just the two of us right here. It's been around. You're not going to be the first people to have to experience it. You've got this, and we're here to help you out. And, as always, I'm happy to help you guys one-on-one with the tutoring and consulting that I do. Jenny is doing teacher consulting, helping teachers figure out how to move their programs and curriculum online. And, that's absolutely amazing. So you can definitely get in touch with her if you need help with that as well. So we're really trying to see what you guys need in this time. So leave any comments with questions that you might have about online learning down below. For sure, I will answer any questions you guys have that weren't addressed in this video. If there's anything that you guys want to know more about, just leave the comments down below. I would love to hear from you guys, and let us know if this was helpful to you. Fingers crossed, we tried to answer as many questions as possible, debunk as many myths as possible. So I think, safe to say that we covered a lot of information here, but we'll be covering even more in the workshops. Come to them. They're totally free. They're going to be a blast. Going to be super interactive, and you will probably learn something super valuable. And then take a look at the online courses. Who knows? You might find something that you are super interested in there. So we are here to help you. Share this video with your friends, because friends help friends, and we all need to be in this together. Thank you again, Jenny. Thank you everyone for watching, and be sure to subscribe, like this video, hit that notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.
Thank you, everyone.